Christy Lemire from the Associated Press and Roger Ebert Presents. She's the co-host of the new show that just begins this weekend.
It's on 3 of the 4 PBS stations in Los Angeles.
Right, and in what, 58 of the...
It's in 48 of the top 50 markets.
Oh my God.
San Diego is a holdout, so you know, go down there and storm the
3 out of 4 PBS stations agree.
Yes, we're worth watching.
Tim Appelo from The Hollywood Reporter. Pete Hammond from Deadline Hollywood. I'm Tom O'Neill with TheEnvelope.com and GoldDerby.com. Thank you. We have a very interesting Oscar race for Best Picture this year because we have a frontrunner in The Social Network that doesn't seem to be the typically Oscar-friendly movie. This is a film that is not huggable. It is maybe a little too young skewing for the older Academy, and it doesn't have a central character that people root for like Russell Crowe in Gladiator or Jeremy Renner last year in The Hurt Locker. So what is it about this film, Christy, and can it go the way?
The script is brilliant, of course. Ernest Sorkin's script, the whole 162 pages of it crammed into 2 hours is brilliant. It's not, you would think it's not necessarily a cinematic story. You know, it's about
It's a
code.
yeah.
It's about code, it's about computer geeks, but it's sexy, and it moves so fluidly. It's like the best of what David Fincher and Ernest Sorkin both do simultaneously. And I would argue that it's like Network.
Oh,
in that it is very much
Which
of its
lost
time,
Best Picture,
but
can I remind you?
But was in there, and also we were talking about not huggable. I mean, like No Country for Old Men is not huggable.
Okay.
I mean, who do you root for? I guess you root for Tommy Lee Jones in No Country, but it's not, again, like a happy, feel-good movie in any way, and it won, what, 4 Oscars?
I know. Tim, it has been a trend lately that the very un-Oscar-friendly movies have been winning, really, with The Hurt Locker and No Country, so maybe this fits into that pattern,
Yes,
if it wins?
Indie lovers say that this is the rise of the indie and the end of the big tentpole studio movie, which may be true for 5 minutes, but it's like 6 months. It's a good time to pitch that kind of script. But I just think that there happened to be a bunch of movies for grown-ups that hit and connected with audiences in all different ways. And I don't think that parallels with previous years are, they're tantalizingly half applicable. They're somewhat applicable and somewhat not. Facebook movie is not friendly to anybody. It's faceless in a way, and it doesn't have huge famous faces, and yet it's connected in a way that the King's Speech hasn't. On the other hand, the King's Speech doesn't just connect with old people. When you get young people in to see it, they kind of like its old-time verities too. So I still think it's trembling on the brink, even though this was the first week that I caved and changed my prediction to The Social Network.
Oh, you caved! So why did you cave? Why?
Well, it was you know, somebody says you don't, a doctor says you don't die of whatever you die of your whole life. Well, it's a whole series of events that led up to this, and it could reverse. I mean, we could see it go the other way. Let's see what happens this weekend, for example. There are still voices to be heard. There are still SAG people and VGA people to be heard from, and so I may change my mind again.
But Pete, you changed your mind midway into this Derby season, right? A couple weeks ago, you defected. Are you staying on this horse?
I led the way of those changing their mind.
This is true.
The most decisive of the indecisive.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, I could absolutely go right back if somebody wins a Guild Award that isn't expected or something. But basically, I think what you're saying and what a lot of pundits are doing is following like sheep to The Social Network, which is what I think is going to happen with the Academy. This is what they've done in the last 3 years. They've sort of taken the movie that was established by the critics and all these other groups before it got to them and gone with it, you know, and not really had an original thought in terms of Best Picture since Crash, which was all theirs. But,
and so was The Departed, though. The Departed was all theirs. Nobody picked it that year. So there was I blame the fact that the Oscars moved up. Was it 2002? They moved up a month, and ever since then they've really been so crowded with the other awards that they've been rubber stamping them.
Yeah, because they don't have the time out there to see all this stuff, or you know. And I think it's with the rise of the blogs and all of this stuff covering the Oscars, like it's political election. There's so much more out there. There's so much more for them to read, and they're seeing. I know somebody I talked to who's an Academy member said, "Wow, I liked The Social Network a lot I guess I'll have to see it again, though.
Right, the pressure
You
is
know,
on them now.
It's that. So that may be factoring in here.
But is it possible, though, that people are flocking to social network not because they're sheep and everyone's doing it, but because it truly is the best picture of the year? I mean, I put it as #1 on my top 10 list.
Yeah.
I think it is the best movie of the year. And
But no other critics did so.
Oh yeah, nobody else did. I'm very mavericky up there with my social network pick, but King's Speech, like on paper, is way more Oscar bait-ish.
Yes.
And you can check a list of, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Well, what
about
we
British
think-
monarchy,
yeah.
overcoming adversity.
It's going to have the most nominations, and in the past 20 years, the movie with the most nominations has won Best Picture 75% of the time.
How many do you think it'll get? Like 12, 13?
What,
How
King's
many-
Speech,
how
probably
many?
11. I think.
Yeah, I think it's 11. That's
Okay.
what I. But I think that there's going to be a lot of big numbers for movies. Black Swan's going to get
Oh, tons,
9
yes.
or 10. Social Network's going to get 9 or maybe 9.
And it's not just a two-way race. I mean, what's interesting is that we could have a split here, and
Yeah.
and that breaks the table in a lot.
And that means, yeah, if you have, I just wrote a piece this week where I pointed out 1951, which I'd love to point out all these years, but you had 2 movies, A Place in the Sun and Streetcar Named Desire, and that's all anybody was talking about.
Right,
Much
yeah.
like they're
And
talking
American in
about
Paris won,
King's
right.
Speech. And American Paris, and the famous ad that was taken out in the trades right after with Leo the Lion saying, "Honest, I was just standing in the sun waiting for a streetcar." That means there's a third movie, and that could be The Fighter, that could be anything. You know, I mean, they could creep in that has enough first place votes and passionate supporters.
Let's double back to the King's Speech, because it really could win, couldn't it? There is a lot of love for this movie. There is a rooting factor. It will have the most nominations, and when that happens, there's going to be some momentum for this film.
Here's what I wonder, though. I mean, that would appeal to I would think, the older Oscar voters.
Which is about 95% of
Is
them.
it though?
right?
No, because they've gotten a lot of younger voters in the
That's what they
last
say.
several
They add
years.
130 people a year.
Yeah.
Do you know how many
But they're-
you have to?
But they're actually on the Facebook, those kids. You know, they're on the
These
Twitter.
geezers, these 80-year-olds. All right,
No,
all right,
no,
all
the
right.
younger voters I'm saying, people
All right.
who picked something like, you know, The Hurt Locker from last year. People who are picking things like Crash.
I don't think
or
they're
whatever
picking
it
the
is.
things because they're younger and hipper.
No?
I think it's Pete's point that there is this herd mentality. They're following what the critics define. I once asked this question of one of the most respected Oscar campaigners of them all, Cynthia Swartz, who of course has been involved in the last several Oscar Best Picture victories, including The Hurt Locker, including No Country for Old Men. And I said, what's going on here? Why is if these Oscar voters are so intelligent that they, and also bullheaded in Hollywood, why are they being such sheep following everyone else? And Cynthia's answer was absolutely brilliant. She said, I didn't understand it either until Bob Weinstein, Harvey's brother, gave me the answer. And the answer is, everybody wants to be on the winning team.
Hence Laker fans.
Hence,
Okay.
okay. But you know what? Maybe that's what it is. Could that be true? That when they see the bandwagon taking off, they say, well, I want to be on the winning team, so that's why all of a sudden I'm having this epiphany that The Hurt Locker is the best movie of the year.
And they don't want to go, hey, I picked Winter's Bone, and I'm really psyched about that. I wish that happened more often, though.
Yeah, well, there are some, but I think we have lost the sense of real surprise in the Oscars, you know, for a number of reasons. By the time we get to the Academy Awards, we've seen all the speeches, and we've seen the same movies win over and over and over again. We even see the same presenters to the same people. You know, you've already seen Jeff Bridges and Sandra Bullock present the awards to Natalie Portman and Colin Firth. You know, we're going to see that again on the Oscars. Everything about it's become so predictable at the end that I think the Academy now is just like falling in line like everybody else. They've lost their sense of originality.